You know, when I was watching this, one of the first things I said to myself is, why do all the good people, the innocent people, the loving people that everyone adores and admires, why do they have to die and pass away at a young age or even a middle age? But then you have all of these other evil, conniving, just terrible mofos still thriving alive today on earth. It's just not fair. We all know that life is not fair, but man, it just not. That's what I was thinking about when I was watching this. But let's talk about it. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Selena Los Dinos is the latest Netflix documentary that is available for you to stream at home for your entertainment. It is PG, coming in at 1 hour and 45 minutes, being described as biography, documentary, family, and music. Now, this is being directed by Isabel Castro. This is what the lovely lady looks like right here. If we scroll down and look at her filmography, she is known for Mija, USA vs. Scott, Pandemic, How to Prevent an Outbreak, Darling, Crossing Over, Stories of Immigration and Identity. Very interesting that this is one of her earlier works, given the material that we're talking about right now. If you are a fan of Miss Castro or her work, please let me know down in the comments section below. Now, when it comes to my expectations for this documentary, they are very, very high. I like Netflix. I like Selena. I just got done watching and reviewing the Being Eddie documentary on Netflix, and I thought that was fire. So there's no reason why I didn't think that this was going to be the same. Now, I did see the original Selena movie that came out in 1997 with Miss Jennifer Lopez. I think that may have been the film that introduced me to the artist. I honestly don't remember if I just knew about Selena well before this, but I do remember seeing this either in junior high or high school. No, I was in junior high when this came out, and I loved it. Seen it multiple times. I mean, I had all the songs. Everybody had all the songs memorized. If you're a fan of Selena, she was just that cool. Everybody knows how great Selena is. So I was expecting something to be as good as this or better. And of course, we're going to talk about it. So before I get into all my nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this documentary film is all about. Selena Quintanilla's journey from performing at local events to becoming the queen of Tejano music, with her family being Selena Los Dinos, culminating in sold-out stadium tours, is chronicled through personal archive footage. Now, I think this documentary was dang near perfect, and it's just so different from the Being Eddie documentary that was just released on Netflix, because that is in present day. In a sense, Eddie Murphy is still alive, and all of the footage, majority of it, or except when they're recapping his old movies and television shows and a few musical performances, is new footage. But that's not the case with this documentary, Selena Los Dinos. Like 95% of it, or maybe 90% of it, is old footage that most people have never seen before, that has been locked in a vault by UMG, or Universal Music Group, if that's the correct name. Only new footage is them going back to 2024, showing Selena's museum, and still how she has new fans and old fans coming in to show support, to show love, like a memoriam. I thought it was beautiful the way that they kind of capped it off at the end. But everything prior to this, like old VHS tapes, and I absolutely loved it. I kind of felt like I was going back into a time machine. But if you are a fan of Selena, in my opinion, you'll love this documentary. Now, again, it only came in at 1 hour and 45 minutes, so they can't cram her whole life story in that amount of time, but they did get through a lot of information, and I learned a lot and have a newfound respect for the artist that was already high, but now it's even higher. When I was reading the press notes, they had over 300 hours worth of footage, and the director, which I just spoke of, said how overwhelming it was for her to take on this project. Is saying, oh my gosh, I don't know if we can do this. It may not be possible. But she got in the trenches, she got her foot in there, and she stirred the pot real well. And overall, I'm very, very happy with the product. Now, if it wasn't obvious to you already, I'm not Hispanic. I'm not Tejano or Latino. And so I'm really curious and interested on what that community feels about this documentary. And the super duper diehard fans, there are a number of channels and reviews that I'm going to check out just because I'm curious on how they were able to relate to it. And one of the reasons that's important for me is, or I'm just curious, is in the documentary, one of the main themes was, or just about Selena's life and her culture and upbringing, is she was born in Texas, but during her life, they were going back and forth from Texas over to Mexico, Corpus Christi, back and forth. And I am a resident of Texas myself. We have a large Hispanic community here. And she did not know how to speak Spanish when she was a child. Neither did her brothers. Her parents did not instill that knowledge, that wisdom in her, that language, that culture. Now, it ended up changing when she got older, but the documentary spoke on some of the identity issues that she had, not really belonging to the American side or not really belonging to the Mexican side. If you saw the movie and this documentary, there is a portion where she goes to Matamoros, Mexico. And I have been to Matamoros, Mexico before. I went in the 6th grade on a missionary trip. She was trying to perform, and I remember it was in the documentary, of course, but it was also in the movie, and the crowd just wasn't loving her. And the whole family just talked about how it was kind of uncomfortable and unsettling about the upbringing and how they really didn't belong to a culture. Again, the reason why that's important to me is I remember in elementary, I had a classmate who his mother was Hispanic and I believe his father was white. He did not speak Spanish. And I believe he told me at one point in time that that kind of bothered him. He wished that his parents did instill that in him as a child. He also kind of had some identity issues growing up. I don't know why, but I will always remember that story and just said to myself, okay, when I have kids someday, and hopefully I do, I'm going to enrich them in as much culture as I possibly can. Black American history all the way. I also have an African brother in the same sense who kind of dealt with some self-hate issues as well. So I was watching this documentary and I could not stop thinking about that. And then especially towards the end, how so many of her fans came to the forefront and just was speaking their truth of just how Selena helped them know who they are, identify themselves, made them proud of their culture, made them want to learn more about Hispanic and or Mexican culture. And I just think that's beautiful when you have an artist that can reach that many people and is loved so much. And that's Selena, and we got that in this documentary. And another thing that I thought it was great about it. Also, I liked about this documentary is it does not just focus on Selena herself. It's titled Selena y los Dinos. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that translates to Selena and the boys. It doesn't just focus on Selena, it focuses on her family. And not just the family, but even the father, Abraham, and not just him as like a teenager, as like a little boy. He was the Dinos, that was their group. He grew up, got married, had a family. Things were not working out in the economy. They were not able to survive or pay their bills or thrive the way they wanted to. They had to move in with family and they needed some income. And they was like, hey, we got the Jackson 5. Let's have the Hispanic version of the Jackson 5 with Los Dinos. And that's what they did. That was the start of this entire empire that they built that's still alive and thriving today, at least for, fan base is concerned. I just think that's super dope. You got to see the origin of the origin of the origin. Her father as a child, as a little boy. And it just makes sense as the whole documentary is progressing on and how things played out. I felt like I got to know Selena as the person and not just the singer. And again, that was part of the 97 movie too with Jennifer Lopez, but this was a completely different lens. This was more authentic because it was actually Selena. And my goodness gracious, she was so adorable. Just so full of life, just so full of character and love, and just was sweet. She was just one of those people to where like you can't get into an argument with her. Like if you have beef with Selena, I'm gonna blame you because this is a perfect angel over here. But other than that, I mean, we all know those people to where it's like they're just so nice and lovable that nobody beefs with them. That is Selena. Oh my goodness gracious! All over this documentary and real life, she was just a lovely soul to where there's just nothing to not like about them. So it's just sad that she's not here anymore, unfortunately. I feel like this documentary filled in a ton of the gaps that the movie left out that I just was not aware of, so that's great too. And I loved how intelligent Selena was and how she came across in this documentary and the way that they edited that and just showed her growth. Because when she was a child doing interviews, no child is like an expert on interviews, but there are children that grow up, they're preteens, teens, young adults, and it showed her as a child, she was uncomfortable in interviews. She wasn't able to speak Spanish thoroughly the way she wanted to, just wasn't that fluent. But when she got older, she was able to speak Spanish in the interviews and was pretty demanding, not like in a bad way. She was very feminine, but strong. Like, okay, you look like you're a sweet little angel, but I know that there's a big bite, behind that. You'll rip somebody's throat off. Like Selena looked really cute and innocent and soft, and she was. But at the same time, she was not a pushover. She was not gonna let anyone take advantage of her. Also, another key point in this documentary is I don't want to go as far as saying that he was trying to sexually objectify Selena on stage. Maybe so. You can let me know in the comment section. It seemed innocent, but at the same time, people have nefarious thoughts, behind the scene in their head that you may not be aware of. He was like, hey, for the fellas out there, why don't you spin around and give us a whole profile? The way that Selena spinned around was so classy. I love the way she did it. And it probably made her uncomfortable, but she didn't want to make a scene or make things awkward. But even if she did, that's perfectly fine. You don't got to be doing 360 profiles if you don't want to. But after she did it, she flipped the script. She was like, hey, the ladies may like you too. Why don't you spin around as well? He was like, oh no, I'm not as well as endowed as you, Selena. She was like, oh no, ladies, don't y'all want to see him spin around? Spin around, sir, spin around. He didn't spin around like that. And that, like, for them to include that in this documentary, 2 thumbs up right here. So that was key right there, and just really show who Selena was kind of behind the camera if you was not aware or you never seen this footage. I mean, it was a true testament of who she was when she just wasn't performing on stage. I love that part of this documentary. I really did love the editing too. When they were introducing new characters in the interviews, usually somebody pops up and on the bottom right, left, top right, wherever, they'll have the person's name, and then like right under that, another subtitle like what their role is or how they relate to the main character. That wasn't the case here. Before or even after somebody would pop up, it would just be a big pink or purple screen with their name. I think it's Selena's handwriting. Very, very nice touch. I also liked it because it grabbed your attention. Like, say for instance, you was watching a documentary and you're looking at your phone. You see that at the corner of your eye, it's gonna make you look up again like, hey, don't be looking at your phone while you're watching this Selena documentary. Pay attention, pay attention. I'm being silly but serious. But as far as the editing is concerned, just something different that I haven't seen before. I really liked it. That was a nice touch too. It included the whole family, the mother, the father, the brother, the sister, and also the husband, Chris. They all participated. I love their involvement. Everything was split evenly amongst them as far as contributing the life that they lived. So that was a nice touch too. I was also fascinated about the romance of how her and Chris, her husband, started their relationship and how afraid he was of letting the secret out that they were dating. And, I don't even want to call him insecure, but he was just a bit cautious, like, wait a minute, I don't want to jump the gun now and thinking that she likes me and this friends and stuff, yada, yada. She got to make the first move. And given the position that he was in, I agree with him 100%. I also loved how the section about the bus, Bertha or Bubba, I can't remember the name exactly. I think it was Bertha, on how like it didn't have any air conditioning. It was always breaking down, and that it had like one seat in the very, very back and like one seat at the very, very front. I remember seeing that bus in the movie. I think I even remember Selena and her husband eating pizza in the bus in the 97 movie, or that maybe it could have been in a restaurant or something like that. But they didn't show that part in the movies, but they showed it in this documentary. I was like, oh, when I'm saying like when I saw the movie, I wasn't thinking like, okay, yeah, maybe there wasn't seats there. But again, you see the origin of the bus. And so as the documentary progresses on, and they get more fame and more money, and they're able to build it up and soup it up and put seats in it and seat belts and all of this stuff. It just really, just another sign of the growth that she had over the years. And it's just really inspiring and pretty dope. I did feel sorry for Abraham, the father, not necessarily being able to provide for your family the way that you want and having to move in with other people. And it's 13 people under one roof. Man, I can only imagine how that makes you feel as a man. But, he did what he had to do. And he got us Selena y los Dinos. And so, yeah, good job, sir. Good job. He's still around today. So, great job there. Just had to give you your flowers. Also, in the middle of me watching this, I was saying to myself, why in the world did it take them this long to make this documentary? This is fantastic. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, maybe the family didn't want to participate. This is their sister. This is their daughter. It's a touching subject. You may not want to talk about it. And the family has that right. But then again, they were, I think, part of the 97 production and went to the premiere. And when I was doing a little research, said that they were sobbing at the premiere. So I probably could have did more research, but I'm just a little confused on like why they were supportive of the 97 movie. But then it took like 30 years for them to come out this documentary when they had all this footage that was just in a safe for this whole time. Now, Universal Music Group did have the rights. I don't know how all that took place and how long they had it, but even if they had it, like, why did it take this long? I don't understand. And so, you may be mad at me, oh, B, that was obvious. You should have read this article. But I'm just being honest with you. I mean, it was a tall order to put this together. Maybe there was another reason, but I feel like, if possible, that they should have made this a long time ago because this was fantastic. And Selena was not just a recording artist, entertainer, performer. She was also a designer. She had her own clothing line or boutique as well. The doc talked about how the sister was working on the costumes, and Selena came up with an idea like, hey, let's do cow print. I think I remember that from the movie. Of course, it was prominent in this documentary. They look silly and good at the same time. I know I was smiling at that moment. I mean, Selena was a megastar in Mexico, the United States, probably even bigger than that. I'm still a fan. Everybody's still a fan. One of my favorite parts was the ending, because at one point I got a little frustrated in the middle of the documentary because it starts off, like I said, with Abraham, the father of Selena, as a child and his upbringing. He's starting his group, getting married, starting a family. And then the Dinos, Selena Dinos, Selena and the boys. They were struggling at first, but then it seemed, I didn't really care for the transition from struggling to success. I'm like, it seemed like that she just was struggling, then she's just successful all of a sudden. I don't know if I wasn't paying attention or it just wasn't the best transition. They saved that part at the end, just kind of showing the large scope of Selena. That made up for that. You know, I wasn't annoyed anymore. You know, I was satisfied at this point. But yeah, towards the end, it did show how much fame she had and so much fan appeal, just like around the world, around the countries. And that was dope. That was a very nice icing on the cake. I did appreciate that. The only other thing that did kind of bother me was I knew that they was going to cover how she passed away, her death, of her getting shot because of some discrepancies in the fan club. And when they started going to that portion of Selena's story, it went to black. And I was like, okay, this is where they're going to start talking about it. Initially, I felt like they kind of skimmed and brushed over it. I was like, wait a minute, I want to know more. I want to see the conversation. But I was like, Brandon, this is a documentary. Okay, this is not a movie. It's not going to play out like it did in the 97 version. Yolanda, the stupid bitch that killed Selena, she's still locked up in jail. So they're not going to go in there and interview her. Maybe they could, but that's just highly unlikely. She got a life sentence with a chance for parole after like 30 years. And that 30th year was this year, 2025. And that's what the evil clown looks like right there. In October 1995, she was sentenced to life in prison, possibility of parole in 30 years, eventually set for March 30th, 2025. She was denied parole on March 27th. I remember this crossing my social media feed, and I'm happy about this because her ass should stay in prison for the rest of her life because she's stupid for killing Selena. So I had to accept that they're not going to get some interview, and the conversations about this were pretty lengthy as well. They didn't just skim over it as far as how the family felt, but of course they were hurt about it. I mean, they're still hurting today, and we got to see all that footage of the press conference and just showing how big of a star Selena was and her reach around the world. It was crazy. So initially I was, a little ticked off from that because I wanted more, but that doesn't even make, logical sense there. So I had to backtrack just a little bit. Other than that, guys, I have no complaints. I really did love this documentary. I thought it was fantastic. Again, if you are a fan of Selena, you will love this documentary. Even if you're not a fan of Selena, I think that you will find some appreciation in this and can walk away like, hey, that was very entertaining. I'm glad that I liked it. If I had to rate this documentary out of a 1 out of 10, I'm going to give it a 9.5 as well. I think that's the same rating that I gave Being Eddie, the other documentary I just watched on Netflix. So check out my review for that as well. There is going to be a video for it right here. And also I'm going to have something right here and something over here as well. I just haven't decided yet. But subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, and share. And I will see you next time. But guys, before you go, don't forget, I'm B. Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace. And I will see you next time.